Happy Tuesday. Today, I'm gonna do a twist on two classics, soup and sandwich and a surf and turf. We're gonna combine the two. So the first part of this surf and turf, we're gonna take braised short ribs of beef. This is a short rib flap. I butterflied it, and then I'm gonna sear it. After I sear it, I'm gonna cook it fast on both sides just to put a nice little crust on it. And then I'm gonna put it inside of this pan. It's a deep saute pan with aromatic vegetables, shallots, carrots, scallions, dried thyme, rosemary. And we're gonna cover this with red wine, and we're gonna braise this for 4 hours. That's right, 4 hours. Because you need that much time in order to loosen up the connective tissue, because it's a piece of meat that is made for braising. We're gonna pair this with a lobster bisque. So first I'm gonna take this piece of short rib flap, and I'm gonna bring it to the flat top. We're gonna season it with my adobo spice mix. Then we're gonna bring it to the flat top with a little bit of oil. So we're gonna sear that. What we're trying to do is caramelize the adobo spice mix that I sprinkled on it, and we're gonna caramelize the fat in that meat. When we braise it, it's all gonna let go into our braising liquid. Let's see what we look like. See that? We got nice color. While that other side is caramelizing, I'm gonna add some red wine. I choose Montepulciano, but to be honest with you, you can use any red wine that you want. Bigger the better. It's a big piece of meat. Bigger the wine, more flavor. I just like the ooh-ah factor. That wasn't as ooh-ah as I thought, but you get the picture. So now we're like, what, 4 or 5 minutes on each side. We're gonna take that piece of meat and we're gonna submerge it in our red wine with our vegetables. We're gonna submerge the short rib flaps in our aromatics, in our red wine. There you go. This is what I was looking for. Where were you 3 minutes ago? We're cooking out the alcohol. That's why I'm starting it on the stove. When that flame goes out, the alcohol's out. So we're gonna cover it, and we're gonna put it into a 350-degree oven for 4 hours. That's right, 4 hours. You need to braise this slow and low in order to break up all the connective tissue, so that when we're finished with this, that meat is gonna be like a hot knife rolling through butter. See you later, my little beauty. While that's braising, it's lobster bisque time. So the second part of our soup and sandwich is gonna be a lobster bisque. We're gonna do a spin off of a classic, except I'm gonna show you different cooking methods so that you can see what a real lobster bisque is supposed to look like, because obviously you're not gonna be able to taste it on camera. This lobster bisque is gonna start with butter, because we have to saute our shallots and garlic in our butter. After that, we're gonna deglaze it with white wine. We're then gonna add, I made a fish stock with lobster heads, and then we're gonna scent it with tomato paste and finish it with a puree. We're gonna do it with a puree of rice, as opposed to making it with flour and butter, a roux. And then we're gonna finish it with heavy cream, because you can't have lobster bisque without heavy cream. You also can't have lobster bisque without, that's right, lobster tails. We're going big today, baby. I've also decided to put my adobo spice mix into the lobster bisque. That way you can have both of these background flavors gelling together. The searing of the short rib flap and the flavor of the lobster bisque. It's one of those, I can't place it, but I fucking love it, and I don't know why. Now you know. We're gonna take a hot saucepan. I'm gonna put a little bit of butter in it, and I'm gonna start sauteing my shallots and garlic. We're gonna cook them slow over medium heat until the shallots and garlic soften up. The shallots become translucent in around 5 or 6 minutes. So once that starts sauteing, I'm gonna add white wine. Deglaze the pan with white wine, cook out that alcohol. I'm gonna use some of my adobo spice mix. So we put a little bit of that. We're gonna add tomato paste with whole peeled tomatoes. I made fish stock. Fish stock consists of fish bones and white vegetables and green, celery, garlic, shallots. This is good. The makings of a great soup start with a really good stock. Now, while that's coming to a boil, I took white rice, plain Uncle Ben's, Carolina, whatever white rice you want, and overcooked it. Usually it's 2 to 1, water to rice. This I did 4 to 1, 1 cup of rice and 4 cups of water. And you cook it slow until the rice overcooks and sort of opens up. What's gonna happen is I'm gonna take the overcooked rice and puree it in a blender with my soup, and that's gonna be the thickening agent, as opposed to using flour or cornstarch, where you can taste all that, that floury, you can taste the starches in it. Here, you know the starch is in it, but there's a nutty background that you don't know what it is, but you, while you're making it, you do. But your guests will never figure it out. I'm gonna go over to the blender with some lobster shells, my rice that I'm gonna make a puree out of, and some of the hot soup all together, or else the blender won't work. We're gonna take our rice puree and go into the blender. With a couple of the shells. No, you're not gonna be able to eat the shells, but we're gonna strain those out later. And the hot soup all at the same time. What you wanna do, because it's hot, is pulse the blender. Pulse the blender. You can see how the top's moving. Pulse the blender until it gets going, or else you're gonna wear it all. Now, we're gonna return it to the pot. And we're gonna bring it back to a boil. But we need the puree of rice, the starches in that rice, we need that to release into the soup, which is gonna give us that nice creamy, thick consistency. Once that comes to a boil, I'm gonna add about the same amount of heavy cream that I added of fish stock. I know it seems like we're going fast, but we just made lobster bisque in a matter of minutes. Hit of salt, and then we're gonna bring all this to a boil. Now that we're ready for that's our desired consistency, now we wanna strain the lobster shells and any of the bits and pieces that we don't want out of the soup. Move the spoon gently through the holes. Any of the undesirables is all left in the strainer. And then we're gonna take our cooked lobster meat. Can't have lobster bisque without lobster. And that's gonna be our garnish. And then we're gonna finish it with a little cilantro. Nice. Lobster bisque. Now that we have our soup ready, we're in our 4th hour of braising our short rib flaps. We're gonna make grilled cheese. First, I decided to do 2 different cheeses. These are both Darby's. Darby's are English cheddars that are scented. One is scented with port wine. The port wine is gonna bring out the flavor of the red wine that we're braising our short ribs in. The other one is a sage Darby or sage cheddar. As you can see, it's nicely studded with sage and white cheddar cheese, both from England. This is gonna bring us our aromatic, our herb factor in our grilled cheese. I then went to the bread store and got, I think they call it a bakery, and got this full loaf of Italian bread. Now, I bought the loaf whole because I want to cut my slices the consistency that I want. being this is a hefty grilled cheese sandwich, we're gonna need thicker slices of bread in order to hold all that in. Most people would start at one end of the bread. Fuck that, I'm going right down the middle. I want the 2 fattest slices. So we're gonna make a Texas toast style thickness of bread. We have to check on our short ribs. Ooh, baby, pour on the gravy. So now that our short ribs are nice and braised and fall apart tender, we can get back started on our grilled cheese sandwich. This grilled cheese sandwich is gonna be levels of flavors. I took a shallot and I sliced them, marinated them with white vinegar, a little bit of olive oil, dried thyme, and rosemary. They've been soaking for about 15 minutes, sort of a half of a pickling process. I'm gonna take these and we're gonna grill them. This is gonna be a centerpiece in our sandwich. While those are grilling, we wanna take nice thick cuts of our artisanal cheese, and we're gonna layer it on the bread. The reason why we put it on the outside of the bread, because that's gonna provide a flavor barrier for the grilled shallots and the short ribs of beef. And then we take our other sage and we get nice thick slices of that too. Flip them over, move them around, dance with them a little bit. All right, we did the cha-cha enough. We're gonna take those grilled shallots and we're gonna layer it on one side of our bread. Every bite gotta be the same. Now we're gonna remove our short ribs from our braising liquid, and we're gonna cut that. We're gonna cut the short ribs the long way because we wanna cover all of that beautiful cheese on those big, thick slices of bread. See how nice and moist? Most people like to spread butter on the outside of their bread before they make a grilled cheese. Me, I'm using mayonnaise. Basically, it acts as the same process. You like butter? I like butter. I like mayonnaise better. You might also. And then we're gonna put that on the grill, on the slower side of the grill, because we don't wanna burn it. And then I'm gonna take it while it's on the grill. I'm gonna mayonnaise the other side of that, get it in the holes, everything. And we're gonna let it toast. Another trick, sort of gets you into the Cuban sandwich aspect of a grilled cheese. I'm gonna take a little bit of aluminum foil and I'm gonna provide a weight. I'm gonna weigh it down so it gets nice and crispy on both sides, while on the inside is melty and chewy and delicious. Oh, you know what we could do? There's no point in wasting all that nice beef juice. So I'm gonna strain out the juice into another pan. The vegetables have done all their work for us. We don't need those anymore. And we're gonna, ooh. My grilled cheese is talking to me. It's saying, flip me, man, flip me. Woo, look at that. Cuban sandwich style grilled cheese. We're gonna reduce our juice so that not only do we have a lobster bisque to dip it in, we have gravy, baby, gravy. All of a sudden we have a third aspect to our soup and sandwich. We got soup, sandwich, and au jus. We're gonna flip it over one more time just because I wanna see what the other side looks like. Woohoo, look at that. Don't get any better than this. Somebody gotta take a picture of this. Because it's so thick and my oven is still on, I'm gonna give it another 3-4 minutes inside just to make sure that that cheese and beef has all melted together. You didn't eat lunch, camera guy, did you? God, I hope not, because you were about to. Now that we have our nice pressed grilled cheese sandwich out of the oven, the only one thing to do, cut it in half and watch it ooze. Ooze. We're gonna pair it with a little watercress salad. I'm gonna dress that with a little tomato vinaigrette. Here's our au jus for dipping in. That way you got a French dip soup and sandwich. And then don't forget about that beautiful lobster bisque. You have been served on your first palatable orgasm.